Today we're going to talk about Andrew Raym and Turner Corcoran as we talk about Bill Bedenbaugh and Oklahoma's offensive line philosophy and all that's coming up after the bumper.
What do you mean you don't subscribe to my son's YouTube channel?
Mama, no!
Just snap the damn ball, RJ.
What's up, kid folk? It's RJ Young. I am not on a step mill. Consider hitting the like and subscribe button because I upload a video every single day. It's always OU related, college football related, sports related. We have a good time, and today I want to take a bit of time to talk about 2020 offensive line recruits Turner Corcoran and Andrew Raym. Now, I come to this by way of just a really interesting conversation with Bronson Irwin that I hope you'll give your time to, but also in talking to my buddy Jerry Ostrowski and of course my buddy Corey Hilliard. And I've surrounded myself with offensive linemen, not just because those guys are my friends, but in the case of Bronson Irwin, a guy that I just started talking with and we vibed. But Corey Hilliard and obviously Jerry are my friends, and I'm thinking about this in terms of how do they see the game and what do they see when they watch football. Now, most of those guys would tell me that they watch it inside the box. They're watching what happens at the snap. They're watching the entire field in a way that, frankly, I just don't, because I grew up as a skill player, never been in alignment, never been that big. But in thinking about Turner Corcoran and thinking about Andrew Raym, Corcoran seems like he could play any position on the offensive line. 6'6", 280. He's going to fill out. I assume he would put on about 30, 40 pounds by the time he gets to where he's going. He took a visit to Oklahoma. It went well. He's going to go to Nebraska. We'll see. But he's the number one player in Kansas for the 2020 class. And he's been in on Oklahoma for a while. The same can be said about Andrew Raym, who at 6'5.5", 300 pounds, looks more like a guard to me. I understand that he projects at tackle for a lot of people, but the way that he is able to just devour people in the run game, the way that he puts guys on their back at this level in Oklahoma, I could picture him being a guy that is beside an E.J. Ndoma-Ogar at center, if that's where he moves to, or if Creed Humphrey is still here by then. I think that guy's going to have an opportunity to leave early if he wants to. He's that good at center. But I'm thinking about Bill Bedenbaugh and the way that he molded guys like Bronson Irwin and these offensive linemen that keep going into the NFL. And the thing that Bronson kept harping on was, it's not necessarily that Bill was doing something different than what was being done with us before we got to Oklahoma, or at Oklahoma, in the case of having a guy like Bruce Kittle be your offensive line coach, or one of them. And I understand that that's an ugly word for some people. But the way that Bronson said it was, you're going to get a lot of reps, and you're going to do it hard, and you're going to go long. In that he would split up the line into two groups. The GA would have one group, Bedenbaugh would have the other group, and they would just beat on each other, going through the sorts of drills that you would go through in individual periods as an offensive lineman. So nothing brand new there. They just did it over and over and over again. And they would be so tired at the end of practice that he would ask, we really can't be doing this every day, can we? And that's what it was. Through the 15 practices of the spring game, through practices in preseason, through practices during the season. So when you get into those November games and playing for championships, playing in big bowl games like a Sugar Bowl, you know with 6 minutes left in the fourth quarter that you're going to dominate the guy across from you. Not because you're still fresh, or not because you feel like, you've gotten stronger as the game goes on, but because mentally you prepared for this. You've been beat up by your offensive line coach all year. And which of these guys kind of fits into that? Well, both of them to a degree. But I look at offensive linemen now, and when I talk to the guys that are on the channel, in particular guys like Aki Agumbi and, of course, EJ, I'm actually wondering aloud as we talk, do you have the mentality to play here? And Bill has a really great understanding of the guys that he wants to coach and the guys that will take his coaching. And I think that is understated when we're talking about what Bill Bedenbaugh can do as an offensive line coach. I know I have this picture of him with a dip in his lip, looking down at reporters talking about what they're going to do and how they're going to do it. And he doesn't really have time for your sass, and he doesn't really have time to sass you. He is at his core a guy that just wants to coach ball up front, and he wants to develop his guys into monsters. And Andrew Raym, Turner Corcoran are phone booth guys. They just want to devour the defensive end or the defensive tackle that is in front of them. They want to get to the second level. They want to put somebody on their back. And I think if you can continue to get those guys coming through the door, at least taking a look at what you have, guys like Lincoln Riley are going to help you close the deal. And we were getting kind of panicky as no grad transfer seemed like they wanted to come to Oklahoma to play for Bill Bedenbaugh. We were wondering why. And it's not because they don't know what goes on, Because R.J. Proctor, who ended up being that guy who said, no, I want to play for Bill Bedenbaugh for 1 year, said, look, he puts guys into the NFL. But that ain't enough for some guys. Some guys, they don't necessarily want to be coached in the way that Bill Bedenbaugh coaches. And when you come to see Oklahoma, particularly in spring game practices, right, spring game, and practices during spring football, you get to see what he's like. You get to see how hard they work. And you have to ask yourself, as you're watching them go through individual and then go through team, do I really want this guy yelling at me for 3-4 years, sometimes 5 years, about how I'm going to get it right or we're going to stay here? Some guys are built that way, some guys are not. And I'm not necessarily making a judgment on either case, because I think that there is a coach for every player. And I don't know that every player is good at picking that coach that is for him, because, you know, if you get offered by Texas, but the guy that's better coach for you is at University of Ohio, you're going to pick Texas more often than not, even if that might not be the place where you should be going. And that's a difficult decision to make as a 17-year-old. So as we continue to watch guys like Turner Corcoran and guys like Andrew Raym, guys that you expect to be Sooners, you should ask over and over again, is this the kind of guy that Bill Bedenbaugh wants to coach? Because it's very clear that if Bill Bedenbaugh does get to coach a guy, they end up being pretty good. It's like Lincoln Riley coaching a quarterback. You get to be pretty good under his tutelage. It's about whether or not the fit is correct for you. And that was a running thought that I had as I watched Virginia pull victory from the jaws of defeat. You foul a man with 0.6 seconds on the clock behind the 3-point line, and then, my goodness, Kyle Guy knocks down all three. I was on my couch going, all right, that's it for me. Deuces.